So you want to play from it up? Let me hear.
Just remember that you're the prize always.
Say that one more time.
Just remember that you are the prize.
Yes.
On August 24th, 2023, Jamaican dancehall artist Stephanie Williams, known as Medikk, left her home in Red Hills, St. Andrew. She entered a taxi. That was the last time anyone saw her alive. 6 months later, on February 14th, 2024, human remains were discovered in a cane field in Wallen District, St. Catherine. Forensic tests confirmed they belonged to Stephanie. Her body was skeletal. The post-mortem revealed she had been shot multiple times. Authorities officially ruled the case a homicide. The timeline of events leading to her death remains unclear. The last known person to interact with her has not been publicly identified. Investigators stated that suspects have been identified, but no one has been arrested. No motive has been released. No charges have been filed. Reports suggest that Stephanie may have been involved with a convicted killer. That individual, currently incarcerated, has not been publicly named. Law enforcement has not confirmed or denied a connection between this person and her murder. Stephanie's phone, clothing, and any potential belongings have not been recovered. The taxi driver who picked her up has not come forward. No witnesses have been identified. No surveillance footage has been released. The case remains open. This is the case of Stephanie Medikk Williams, a rising entertainer who vanished without a trace. If you're captivated by real crime stories that peel back the layers of truth, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us as we uncover real cases, raise awareness, and give a voice to the voiceless. Before we dive into today's story, we want to hear from you. Where are you tuning in from? And how do you feel as the story unfolds? Welcome to Deadly Crime Unmasked, the show where we expose the shocking crimes that rip through communities and the chilling secrets lurking behind closed doors. These are real people, real events, real consequences. Don't forget to subscribe and activate notifications. You won't want to miss the gripping story that's coming up. Now let's dive in. Stephanie Williams, also known as Medikk, was born on October 8, 1993, in Westmoreland, Jamaica. She was raised by a teenage mother. Information about her father is not publicly available. She grew up in a religious environment and spent part of her early life in the church. There is no confirmed public record of her formal education history. It is unclear what level of schooling she completed or if she pursued higher education. Her career path focused on music and business rather than academics. Under the stage name Medikk, Williams entered the Jamaican dancehall music industry. Her music reflected common themes in the genre, including self-confidence, power, and urban survival. Her performance style was bold and direct. She created a personal brand based on resilience, natural beauty, and female empowerment. She was also the founder and owner of a skincare and wellness business called Reborn Holistic. The brand promoted natural health products and remedies. This side of her work positioned her not only as a performer, but also as an entrepreneur with a presence outside of music. Medikk used social media platforms to grow her audience. Her content included music promotions, beauty products, motivational quotes, and personal lifestyle photos. She steadily gained followers, especially among young women in Jamaica and the diaspora. Her rise in popularity placed her in the spotlight within the entertainment and wellness spaces in Jamaica. She became known for promoting natural health and self-care, while also producing dancehall music. She developed a following through music videos, live performances, and online engagement. There is limited public information about her personal relationships. She did not publicly confirm any romantic partners. However, later developments in the case following her death suggested that she may have been involved with a man who had a criminal background. This information became relevant after she was reported missing and later found dead. At the time of her disappearance, Medikk was 29 years old. She was living in Red Hills, St. Andrew, Jamaica. Her disappearance occurred on Thursday, August 24th, 2023. According to available information, Stephanie was picked up by a taxi outside her home. The identity of the driver and the final destination remain unconfirmed. No surveillance footage or eyewitness accounts have been publicly released regarding this trip. After entering the vehicle, Stephanie was not seen or heard from again. There were no confirmed phone calls, messages, or sightings after this moment. Her sudden disappearance raised concern within her immediate family. Within 24 to 48 hours, her mother reported her missing to the Constant Spring police station. The exact time of the report is not disclosed, but it occurred within the typical window for classifying a disappearance as suspicious. The report was officially filed, and an investigation was opened under the status of a missing person case. In the early phase of the investigation, there was limited media coverage. Major Jamaican news outlets did not publish extensive alerts or bulletins during the first several days. Public appeals for information were sparse. The case did not attract national attention immediately, and there were no press conferences, interviews, or official search operations made public in the initial weeks. Law enforcement confirmed that the case was active but did not disclose any persons of interest, search locations, or investigative strategies. The Constant Spring police maintained the classification as a missing person investigation during this period. Over the following months, no updates were issued by the police. Stephanie's family reportedly continued private efforts to locate her, but no significant leads were made public. There were no additional reports of sightings or tips from the community. Law enforcement did not report progress on the case, and her whereabouts remained unknown from August to the end of the calendar year. On February 14, 2024, nearly 6 months after Stephanie's disappearance, skeletal remains were discovered in the Wallen district of St. Catherine Parish. The area is a rural part of central Jamaica known for its agricultural terrain. The remains were located inside a sugarcane field, which was overgrown and largely uninhabited. The discovery was made by a civilian, who then notified local authorities. The police secured the area and began forensic recovery procedures. The remains were transported to a forensic facility for further examination. The remains were submitted to the Institute of Forensic Science and Legal Medicine, the national agency responsible for DNA testing and post-mortem analysis. A DNA profile was extracted and compared against known family samples from Stephanie Williams. The results confirmed that the skeletal remains were those of the missing artist. This identification officially ended the search and converted the case status from missing person to confirmed deceased. The post-mortem report revealed that the cause of death was gunshot wounds. The exact number of wounds and the location of entry points were not disclosed to the public. Due to the advanced stage of decomposition, the body was reduced to skeletal form, making further soft tissue analysis impossible. Despite this, the forensic evidence was sufficient to classify the case as a homicide. No weapon was recovered at the scene. The condition of the field, combined with time elapsed since death, contributed to the difficulty of gathering further physical evidence. Following the confirmation of identity and cause of death, police acknowledged the death of Stephanie Williams as an active murder investigation. However, details of suspects, leads, or timeline reconstructions have not been publicly provided. Statements from law enforcement indicated that individuals of interest were known to investigators, but no arrests were made at the time of the discovery. The identity of the taxi driver who picked up Stephanie on August 24th has not been publicly disclosed, nor has it been confirmed whether they were located or interviewed. There were no reports of Stephanie's belongings being recovered from the crime scene. Items such as her phone, purse, or clothing were not referenced in any official briefings. No witnesses came forward to report having seen her after she left her home. The last confirmed sighting remains the moment she entered the vehicle that collected her from Red Hills. The public release of her death triggered delayed media interest. Outlets began covering the case extensively following the DNA confirmation in February 2024. Reports reference her role as a rising dancehall artist and the unusual circumstances of her disappearance. Some coverage speculated about her connections to individuals with criminal records, but no formal link has been confirmed by law enforcement. Police have neither named nor charged any suspect as of July 2025. This case remains open. Law enforcement continues to treat the death of Stephanie Williams as an unresolved homicide. Investigators have not released additional findings or progress updates. The area where her remains were discovered has not been linked to any specific individual, and no evidence tying a suspect to the scene has been disclosed. The events from August 24th, 2023 to February 14th, 2024, represent a period of significant investigative gaps. For 6 months, Stephanie Williams was considered missing, with no confirmed leads, public search efforts, or official bulletins distributed to the general population. The discovery of her remains provided confirmation of her fate, but left key questions unanswered, including the identity of the person or persons responsible, the motive behind the murder, and the timeline between her disappearance and death. Authorities have not confirmed whether Stephanie was killed on the same day she disappeared or at a later date. Forensic reports do not clarify how long her remains had been in the sugarcane field prior to discovery. The length of time and condition of the remains suggests that they had been there for an extended period, likely consistent with the date of her disappearance. In February 2024, nearly 6 months after Jamaican dancehall artist Stephanie Medikk Williams was reported missing, a major breakthrough occurred in her case. Skeletal remains discovered in a sugarcane field in the Wallen district of St. Catherine were officially confirmed to be those of the missing entertainer through DNA testing conducted by the Institute of Forensic Science and Legal Medicine. Following this confirmation, a government-sanctioned postmortem was performed to determine the cause of death. The autopsy was conducted by authorized government pathologists. The findings were conclusive. Stephanie Williams died from multiple gunshot wounds. No exact number of shots was disclosed publicly, and no mention was made of the caliber or type of firearm involved. The pathologist did not find evidence of advanced decomposition affecting ballistic interpretation, indicating that the skeletal remains retained sufficient forensic integrity to establish a cause of death with confidence. Based on the gunshot injuries, the death was officially classified as homicide. This ruling marked a shift in how the case was handled. Prior to this point, Stephanie Williams was listed as a missing person, and an investigation remained in that category for approximately 6 months. With the results from the postmortem, law enforcement agencies upgraded the classification of the case to murder and began treating it accordingly. The autopsy results significantly changed the direction of the investigation. What had been an uncertain disappearance now had definitive confirmation of foul play. The finding of multiple gunshot wounds ruled out the possibility of suicide or accidental death and indicated that Stephanie had been deliberately targeted and killed by an individual or individuals who had not yet been identified publicly. Following the postmortem confirmation, investigators narrowed their focus on possible suspects. Law enforcement sources, as reported in Jamaican media outlets, suggested that a specific individual had become a primary person of interest. This individual has not been publicly named, and no formal charges have been announced. However, police sources indicated that the person under scrutiny is a convicted killer who was already incarcerated at the time Stephanie's remains were identified. It is believed by investigators that this individual may have had a romantic or personal relationship with Stephanie Williams prior to her disappearance. Whether the relationship was ongoing at the time of her death or had ended remains unclear based on current reports. No additional information was disclosed regarding how the suspect, already serving time for a different crime, might be connected to Stephanie's murder. Authorities have not confirmed whether they believe the murder was orchestrated from inside prison, carried out by accomplices, or occurred before the individual's most recent incarceration. The exact timeline of the suspect's movements and communications around the date of Stephanie's disappearance on August 24th, 2023, has not been released. There have been no disclosures about digital evidence, witness statements, or forensic links connecting the suspect directly to the crime scene where her remains were located. Additionally, there has been no official information about how the body was transported, who was involved, or whether the cane field was a known or strategically chosen location. While speculation about this unnamed individual has circulated in local discussions and online forums, the police have maintained operational silence regarding the suspect's identity or any potential involvement of other persons. Investigators have not confirmed whether they are pursuing additional suspects, accomplices, or a broader network of individuals who might have contributed to concealment of the crime. Between mid-2024 and July 2025, police officials provided several briefings to media outlets and the family of the deceased. These statements confirm that suspects have been identified in the murder of Stephanie Williams. However, no arrests have been made as of July 2025. The delay in filing charges has not been explained in detail. During this period, law enforcement has stated multiple times that the case remains open and active. Investigators have also reassured the public and Stephanie's family that justice is still being pursued and that the complexity of the case requires further evidence collection before charges can be finalized and filed in court. The lack of formal charges, despite the identification of suspects, has led to questions about the quality of the evidence obtained so far, the strength of the prosecution's case, or the possibility of ongoing cooperation with other agencies. Law enforcement has not responded to inquiries about whether they're waiting for additional forensic results, witness cooperation, or judicial clearance to proceed with arrests. There has also been no clarification on whether the suspected individual's current incarceration status impacts the timeline or strategy for bringing charges in Stephanie's case. It remains unclear whether the Department of Correctional Services or any external intelligence units are coordinating with the police on this matter. Police have not disclosed that the murder weapon has been recovered, if shell casings were found near the location of the skeletal remains, or if there were any personal belongings, clothing fragments, or electronic devices located at the scene. Without access to that information, the public remains unaware of what specific evidence, beyond the autopsy, points toward the alleged involvement of the unnamed convict. Despite these gaps, police communications have emphasized that progress has been made in the investigation and that they continue to gather intelligence related to the timeline of the victim's final movements, last contacts, and relationships prior to her disappearance. The decision not to file charges yet has also raised concerns among victim advocates and legal commentators in Jamaica. However, police have maintained that premature arrest without sufficient evidence could jeopardize the integrity of any future prosecution. As of July 2025, the murder of Stephanie Williams remains unsolved. Her body was found. Her death was confirmed as a homicide caused by multiple gunshot wounds, and suspects have been identified but not charged. The case continues to be monitored by local media, and law enforcement officials say they are actively working toward an eventual arrest. The family of Stephanie Williams has been informed of developments and continues to await legal resolution. No public announcements have been made regarding timelines, suspect names, or prosecutorial decisions. The investigation remains under the supervision of the Jamaican Constabulary Force, and details are being kept confidential pending further evidence. Until formal charges are filed or additional information is released by law enforcement, the circumstances surrounding Stephanie Williams' disappearance and murder remain open for ongoing investigation. The disappearance and confirmed murder of Jamaican dancehall artist Stephanie Medikk Williams prompted significant reactions from the public, media, and her family. However, much of the visibility and concern emerged only after her remains were discovered. What followed was a wave of scrutiny regarding law enforcement's handling of the case, a surge in media coverage, and ongoing calls from her family for justice. Public interest in the Stephanie Williams case remained limited during the early stages of her disappearance. Williams, known as Medikk, had not been heard from since August 24th, 2023, when she was last seen leaving her home in Red Hills, St. Andrew. According to police reports, she left in a vehicle that had reportedly picked her up, and no further communication was made after that point. Her mother filed a missing person report shortly after. Despite her rising public profile as a dancehall entertainer and entrepreneur, widespread public concern did not materialize until February 2024, approximately 6 months later, when human skeletal remains were discovered in a cane field in Wallen District, St. Catherine. The DNA testing that followed confirmed that the remains belonged to Stephanie Williams. At that point, media outlets began to report more extensively on the circumstances surrounding her disappearance. Public discussions online intensified following the confirmation of her identity. On social media platforms, Jamaican users and diaspora communities voiced suspicions about the quality and urgency of the initial police response. Many questioned the 6-month delay in locating the body and criticized the perceived lack of widespread media attention during the critical early weeks of the investigation. Speculation also grew around whether the case was neglected because of the victim's gender or profession, though no official statements were made to confirm such motives. Online conversations were centered around 3 main points: the failure to elevate the missing person report to a more urgent status, the lack of sustained media coverage prior to the discovery, the implications of a body being discovered in a relatively remote but accessible area without earlier detection. This delayed public interest had a direct impact on pressure placed upon authorities, as only after the remains were confirmed did there appear to be an uptick in investigative accountability and media scrutiny. After February 2024, mainstream Jamaican and Caribbean media outlets began sustained coverage of the case. Prominent news agencies, including the Jamaica Gleaner, Jamaica Observer, IRI FM, and Caribbean Today began publishing articles and reports detailing various aspects of Williams' disappearance and the circumstances surrounding her confirmed death. Initial articles focus on the timeline, when she was last seen, when she was reported missing, and when her remains were found. Journalists highlighted inconsistencies in early public information and underscored that no suspect had been arrested, even though police stated they had identified persons of interest. Following the post-mortem examination, which confirmed that Williams had died from gunshot wounds, further coverage examined the forensic findings. The use of skeletal remains analysis and DNA confirmation was documented as part of official forensic procedures by the Institute of Forensic Science and Legal Medicine. Media outlets also featured commentary on community reactions. The reports included community members' participation in vigils, statements made by fellow entertainers, and general public concern over the implications of the murder. Some articles emphasized that the case reflected a wider issue of violence against women in Jamaica, particularly those with public profiles or careers in entertainment. The final major theme in media coverage involved law enforcement performance. Reporters and analysts raised critical questions about whether the Constant Spring police station responded adequately when the missing person report was first filed. The 6-month gap between disappearance and discovery of remains was continually cited as a point of concern. As of mid-2025, media attention continues, although it reduced frequency. However, updates have been issued whenever law enforcement reiterated that suspects were identified and the case remains under investigation. Stephanie Williams' mother, Millicent McCurdy, has been a consistent figure in both public and procedural elements of the case. She was the individual who filed the initial missing person report with authorities after her daughter failed to return home and could not be reached. Following the confirmation of her daughter's death, McCurdy began to make public appearances and give statements to media outlets. In interviews, she detailed the timeline of Stephanie's disappearance, described her daughter's professional ambitions, and questioned the investigation's pace and transparency. McCurdy participated in memorial events and commemorations organized in honor of Williams. These events were covered by several media outlets, particularly around the time of the funeral and official memorial service in August 2024. Throughout her appearances and statements, McCurdy consistently expressed a demand for legal justice. She has requested that law enforcement act on the evidence they claim to possess and file charges against the suspects they have identified. In doing so, she positioned herself as a central advocate for accountability in the case. Her interviews avoided speculation, instead focusing on procedural facts and calls for transparent resolution. She emphasized that her family seeks closure through formal legal processes and expects a complete investigation with conclusive outcomes. The memorial service for Stephanie Williams took place in August 2024 in her home parish of Westmoreland. The event was held in a traditional church setting and included a burial ceremony. Attendance was significant. Reports from Jamaican media outlets confirmed the presence of a large number of attendees, including local musicians, industry figures, clergy, and members of the general public. The service involved multiple speakers, though most statements were brief and factual. The public turnout demonstrated that Williams' death had resonated with segments of the community, especially after the circumstances were fully revealed through forensic and police reporting. Security was present at the event, and no disruptions were reported. Media outlets covered the event with photos, excerpts of remarks, and confirmation of her final resting location. The official position of the family, as articulated through public interviews and official statements, is centered around one objective: legal justice. The family has called for formal accountability for those responsible for Stephanie Williams' death. Their expectations are focused on the Jamaican Constabulary Force and the Ministry of National Security to pursue, arrest, and charge the individuals reportedly connected to the murder. In multiple statements, the family emphasized that authorities have publicly acknowledged that suspects were identified. However, no formal charges have been brought as of July 2025. The family continues to monitor the case and periodically communicates with investigators. There have been no public indications that the family intends to pursue civil litigation or international advocacy at this time. All efforts remain focused on pressuring local authorities to act based on the forensic and investigative findings already disclosed. Despite speculation from the public and the media, no official documents or statements have confirmed the nature of their connection. Investigators have not released photographs, communication records, or timelines that would prove a formal or informal relationship. Nonetheless, this alleged link remains central to the ongoing murder investigation. Law enforcement has not ruled out the possibility that Stephanie was lured or manipulated by this individual in the time leading up to her disappearance. Police theory suggests that this relationship, whether romantic, transactional, or otherwise, may have been used as a means of access, positioning the convict or his associates to harm her. However, the absence of formal accusations and lack of criminal complaints filed by Medikk during this period leave critical gaps in establishing motive, opportunity, or direct involvement. No restraining orders, police reports, or protective filings exist on public record that indicate Medikk reported feeling endangered or threatened by this individual. Whether she was aware of his criminal background or perceived him as a threat remains unknown. The absence of official complaints, however, does not discount the possibility of private or concealed dynamic between two that ultimately contributed to her death. Investigators have maintained that while the suspect is behind bars, his name is being withheld to preserve the integrity of the case. There has been no confirmation as to whether this individual was already incarcerated before Medikk was murdered or if he was apprehended for unrelated offenses after her death. This distinction is important in establishing timelines, access, and logistics surrounding the act of murder and body disposal. The police have also not confirmed whether this man acted alone or if third-party accomplices may have carried out the crime on his behalf. The lack of formal charges and the limited public disclosures on the case suggest that investigators may be withholding key information as part of a broader strategy to gather admissible evidence. As of July 2025, despite the suspect being known to law enforcement, no one has been arrested in connection with the murder. Stephanie Williams disappeared on August 24th, 2023. Her remains were not found until February 2024, a span of nearly 6 months. This extended gap has raised questions about the thoroughness and immediacy of the initial search efforts. Her body was eventually discovered in a remote sugarcane field in Wallen District, St. Catherine, an area known for its seclusion. Law enforcement has not stated if this location was searched earlier in the investigation or if it was considered a potential disposal site from the beginning. The state of the remains, skeletal at the time of discovery, suggests prolonged exposure to natural elements. This significantly complicated the autopsy and delayed the confirmation of identity. The location itself appears to have been deliberately chosen for concealment, reducing the chances of accidental discovery by the public or law enforcement. Despite identifying the remains and confirming cause of death, multiple gunshot wounds, there are still major forensic elements missing from the public narrative. There are no available reports indicating the use of digital forensics, such as the victim's GPS data, mobile communication records, or banking transactions during the days leading up to and immediately following her disappearance. If these records were collected, they have not been disclosed to the public or the media. No witness accounts have been officially released. No statements have been provided from neighbors, friends, or the alleged taxi driver who picked her up on the day she disappeared. The identity of the taxi driver remains unverified. Whether this individual has been interviewed, ruled out, or is still being investigated has not been confirmed. In cases of disappearance, transport providers often hold key timeline data. In this instance, that link has not been made transparent. The murder weapon has not been recovered. There is no public mention of the caliber of firearm used, the number of shots fired, or whether ballistic evidence was found at the scene where her body was discovered. The absence of a weapon reduces the ability to connect suspects of the crime through forensic residue, fingerprints, or other material evidence. The motive remains speculative. Without direct ties, a weapon, or public statements from suspects, authorities are left with circumstantial evidence at best. Theories range from interpersonal conflict to potential retaliation or manipulation, but no concrete motive has been publicly assigned. Nearly 2 years after her disappearance, the murder of Stephanie Williams remains unsolved. Law enforcement has confirmed that the case is classified as an open murder investigation. Police have acknowledged that they have identified suspects and that these individuals are known to them, but no arrests have been made. No one has been officially charged in connection with the crime. The public case file is limited in scope. Only essential details have been released, primarily concerning the discovery of remains and the confirmation of homicide. Investigative files, suspect records, and forensic findings have not been made publicly accessible. This lack of transparency makes it difficult for the public to monitor the progress of the case or hold law enforcement accountable for any investigative delays. According to public statements by senior officers, surveillance and investigation efforts are ongoing. However, there are no public briefings, progress reports, or prosecutorial announcements that would confirm the status of interviews, evidence processing, or warrant issuances. The lack of updates raises concerns about whether the case is advancing, stalled, or cold. The murder remains uncharged. No timeline has been issued by the Director of Public Prosecutions for an arrest or court proceedings. No civil or criminal complaints related to obstruction, accomplice liability, or evidence tampering have been reported. If this story gripped your heart and left you questioning the truth, don't forget to hit that like button and share with others who need to hear it. For more chilling true crime stories that dive deep into the mysteries behind these tragedies, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest updates, investigations, and thought-provoking discussions. Thank you for being part of this journey with us as we uncover the truth and seek justice. Together, we can make a difference. Stay safe, stay aware, and we'll see you in the next one.